Hello, my name is John O'Connell, Chair and Founder of ScaleUp Group, and I'm delighted today to be talking with Mike Reid as one of our Pearls of Wisdom podcasts. Mike, amongst other things, is a fellow partner in ScaleUp Group, which obtains growth funding for tech entrepreneurs, as well as us co-investing ourselves. So far, around £100 million in total, of which we've personally invested around £7 million. Mike, a very warm welcome.
Good to be here, John.
Thank you. I'm delighted that our clients at ScaleUp Group have the benefit of your vast experience, knowledge, and connections, which they're able to take advantage of as and when they feel the need. You started out your career with 3i, I believe, where you no doubt cut your teeth in terms of assessing and investing in growth businesses. 3i, as we know, has spawned a number of independent funds, and I note that after almost 11 years there, you founded Frog in 2009 and have been the senior partner there ever since. On top of that, you are and have sat on a number of boards as a non-executive, including currently Clue Software, a client of ScaleUp Group, which we introduced you to, and also Evotix, nay, She Software, ScaleUp Group's first ever client and a great success too. Apart from your wealth of knowledge and seeing what and what does not work, which you'll tell us about, I'm sure up there in your achievements is receiving from me the much coveted Nutcase of the Year award in December last. So where to begin, Mike? We're going to attempt the impossible in the next 20 minutes, which is to distill what has driven you, what lessons you've learned, and what would you like to pass on to our audience of primarily tech entrepreneurs and leaders. Simple task, it is not. Over to you, Mike.
Great, thanks, John. Yeah, we could talk all day about this kind of topic. One of the things that has driven me right through my career is working closely with entrepreneurial teams and co-investors. Yeah, just some fantastic people going through incredibly challenging times building a business. So when I was thinking about kind of lessons learned. I mean, there's loads we could talk about in terms of sales and marketing and GTM and product and tech and all the kind of scale up challenges. But I thought we would focus much more on people, senior team, particularly a little bit on fundraising and exit and my reflections and lessons there, and then finish off with some more personal stuff around personal health and how one looks after oneself through this kind of crazy journey. So to kick off with the kind of senior talent side, I mean, I think to me that is the number one lesson learned through countless investments and board roles and managing portfolio, both at 3i and here is the ability for a leader or set of co-founders to basically attract, convert, and then integrate really effectively world-class, fantastic people into their senior teams is by far and away the biggest kind of hurdle. So point one on that journey is around just as a decision maker, an entrepreneur, just thinking about where is your team right now? What are the challenges coming up in the next kind of 6, 12, 18, 24 months? And then where is your current team going to hit the kind of ceiling? And when do you need to recruit? So my number one message is around, for God's sake, hire ahead of the curve. If you're a fast growing company, you're really aiming for having somebody who is in role in 12 months time, where you might be 30, 40, 50% bigger than you are now, and you want that person to be able to deliver for you and the business for the next 2 to 3 years. So the lessons, of course, is that a lot of the time there's a lot of emotional attachment through the startup into scale up phase, where you've got that cult-like feeling as a team. People have been super committed on that journey, and then people just take too long to take that tough decision to say, Mike's a really good guy, he's been really good, but he's not an expert head of sales, or he's not an expert in that. He's more of a generalist, and getting that kind of breaking through and getting that transition is vital. Second area then is what I've termed black belt teamwork and black belt team challenge. So scale up period is where you're going from typically one or two people have got their fingers on the pulse right across the business. And you will know this as an entrepreneur, John. You know exactly what's going on everywhere. Through the scale up phase, you're moving maybe from 50 people to 100 people to 200 to 300. Not possible. You can't do that. So something has to change. And the most important thing, obviously linking on from the hiring point, is getting that teamwork in the senior team. What our lessons there is that we typically see in this day and age, people are pretty good at getting kind of what I would call teamwork light. They get sensible people, they work together, they have meetings, etc. But they don't really instigate team challenge. Can that senior team operate without you in the room? Is one challenge. Are you, as the CEO, the main focus of holding people to account? Is it really a kind of right? Or when we see the best teams, individuals are holding each other to account. You've got CFO challenging you, John, in sales, saying, "Guys, you're way behind," and you as CEO are stepping back, saying, "Right, okay, I'm facilitating the meeting, not doing all the challenging." And so that team work, that team culture is vital, and our recommendation definitely is that all teams should have a executive team coach to be able to sort of step back and comment on how decisions are being made and how you're improving, and particularly you as an entrepreneur CEO, how your role is evolving in line with that.
Mike,
Um,
can I dive in on that one?
yeah, of course.
Because my own experience was I didn't know whether or not I could scale up, and therefore, who was I to assess whether my colleagues could, and when would I know whether or not they couldn't? Of course, numbers rarely lie. So
Yeah.
I guess that's a kind of primary trigger if you're behind on sales or whatever. But of course, quite a few roles are not so numbers driven.
Yeah.
And compounding that, I like your comment on it, is when I thought that I wasn't up for it anymore, I did make some hires, for instance, and I made some absolute, pardon the French, balls ups when
Mm.
it comes to hiring. And I was infatuated by people whose apparent track record was stellar, coming from very large software businesses, without realizing, of course, that they had all the infrastructure and brand all behind them.
Yeah.
So in a way, making such a mock-up of recruitment then caused me to be much slower in seizing the kind of the nettle, grasping the nettle of trying to change the bloodstock of the business.
Mm.
I'm really intrigued by your point about coach. Is this an external person or someone like the chairman, or who would that be typically?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are multiple inputs I've seen work. The chair role is for some people, and they always have a role. I think that's a good one. Finding a chair that you really trust, but also you have a mature enough relationship with that person can really challenge you and say things you don't agree with and all that kind of stuff. So having that robust relationship is key. In addition, though, I don't think the chair, a lot of time chair people are like yourself. They're really experienced entrepreneurs, but they're not psychological team experts. They're kind of
Yeah,
amateur team experts. So there are really good people out there who are more psychology based, which sounds a bit theoretical, but they've seen so many teams that they can bring a different view to you, a complementary view to yourself, to say they'll see things that you're not seeing. They're not the ones to make the decision, etc. But they bring a kind of both a judgment, particularly with bringing on new people as you joined. So I've had countless situations where we brought new people on, and then in discussion with a particular coach we work with, they say, well, that was obviously not going to work because of X, Y, Z. And you look back and think, well, we didn't even see it. We were just wowed by the track record from the previous company, and we weren't thinking about the personality fit between
Yeah.
or a number of other things. So I would basically work on both. I would work on finding a really good relationship with the chair, but then I would also have so really good. In fact, Eva Tix and Clue, they'll have an away day with their coach. It's executive team only, no non-execs, no non-exec chairman. It's down and dirty, right? Okay, a day and a half in a room working out the kind of financial plan or strategy plan, and then at the same time, an active coach knowing, for example, hey, Jane isn't, she's got something on her mind, but she's not bringing the input, dragging Jane in. So, right, it's important we hear your views, and getting that kind of psychological safety around the senior team to be able to perform optimally.
But that's quite a commitment, isn't it? A day and a half every quarter
Every
or
half year.
every
Yeah.
half year. Okay,
Or I
yeah,
mean,
okay,
so I
yeah,
think it does
yeah,
vary, but I mean, certainly when you're coming up to, I mean, I'd just say it pays off. Every time I've heard about it when it works, it pays off
yeah,
massively
yeah.
because it because
Very good.
it's forcing you as an entrepreneur, which is my final point in the people side, is as a CEO, it's so tough to carve time out to work what we call on the business, not
Yeah,
just in the business.
yeah,
And of course, what I
yeah,
mean by that is having the ability to step back and say, right, how is the team performing? What's going well, what's not, and actually having time to watch the performance of the team, and think more strategically. When you've got fires burning in customers, and people threatening to leave or whatever, there's always a reason not to have that. But I think even just measuring how much time you have to work on the business is key, because teams who have excellent C-level people free up time for your CEO. So
yeah,
when you're getting dragged into customer kind of crises or whatever else, I mean, maybe a bit unfair, but I would say that's probably because those team leads aren't strong enough to deal with those issues themselves. And of course, depends on the stage you are in your growth journey, but there must be a certain point where you say, look, customer issues should be dealt by the customer success leader.
yeah.
Why should it, we've got to get out of this loop of a CEO being dragged into, and of course it's a journey because some customers are more important than others, etc. But even just monitoring how much time you're getting to work on the business is a good indicator.
Yeah, I'm smiling a little here because back to my staffware days when we were a solution looking for a problem, and the early sales, I think, were made all by me. And I think
Yeah,
as much a personality sale as it was actually, let's say, a professional sale. Um, and then I began to realize that, hold on, we're not in pioneering mode anymore. And
yeah,
yeah, I can't go into a sales pricing negotiation fearful that we weren't going to make payroll next month. I mean, that was just
yeah,
hopeless.
yeah.
So then and in the end, none of my salespeople would let me into a meeting unless
You knew you succeeded.
all I had to do was just talk about the vision and the future,
Yeah,
but don't go anywhere near the commercials, because I was too empathetic with the
yeah,
clients.
yeah,
So I do
absolutely.
get but for a while, it gave me an identity crisis. So what is my worth to the business?
Yeah,
And I rationalized it at the end because as we grew and then we floated in the market, and I was then able to judge myself by share price movement and that sort of stuff, and I could afford to spend a lot of my time on investor management. But that transition I found difficult, trying to
very, very
justify my own
difficult.
existence. Yeah,
Well, and just the self-awareness to be able to say, gosh, you know, how do I get uncomfortable? How do I get that feeling, which is of what's my
Yeah.
role? And of
Yeah.
course, the CEO has a huge role, and there's tons. So you only, in my view, you only sort of realize the stuff you need to be doing and should be doing, working on the business once you've freed yourself up. If you don't free yourself up, you're constantly kind of enjoying the sort of feeling of being needed by whatever the next
Yeah.
crisis is.
Yeah. You're essential to everyone. Yeah.
Which sort of leads on to my next theme, because of course, working on the business and the future of the business, where fundraising and future exit are huge topics to be worked on for a CEO, and are not things you can kind of change or react to in the matter of weeks or even months. And my lessons there are around both fundraising, but also relevant for exit. It's one sort of giant B2B sales process, super complex. The key one is around having the time as a CEO to really understand the target audience of who you're trying to fundraise from, or ultimately who you're trying to sell, get to buy the business. So really getting time to get under the covers of what drives these people, what's driving the decision makers, what does an investor like, what those investors like, it's all well known now on the web, etc. But you should really be understanding. Okay, I'm not talking to them because they're looking for 100% growth rate companies that are losing loads of money, and that's not us. I'm targeting someone who's looking for 20-30% growth, and that we're break even. And so understanding the kind of investor mindset is vital, and then understanding obviously the planning of how you're going to lure people in to realizing I must invest in John's business. He's doing, well, it's just the stuff that fits really well with our portfolio, etc. And then similarly to exit, we talk a lot with our founders, and their, great example was Matthew at Evertix, where we did a lot of work way before the sort of the heat of the exit process around, well, what were we? What growth rate were we? Where were we? We were making sure that we were going to be growing. I think we were growing at like 40% plus at the time, but within 2 years, we had a goal that we would be break even the time we went to market, and we were. So that means that opened up the whole private equity world, because private equity said,
Yeah.
okay, break even, moving into profit, your growth at blah, blah, blah. So we understood the audience, because we knew we wanted private equity as part of the market. We understood what they wanted. They wanted strong kind of NRR around sort of 120. They wanted all the metrics in terms of the SaaS stuff. But we were working on that, point is, well, 2 years ahead of the exit,
Yeah.
because it's so tough and we were turning things down. So we were saying, okay, maybe we decided not to grow into Australia nearly as much as we probably could have done, partly because we were the return on investment was longer than made sense from our exit timing.
Mm.
So having those debates as a CEO and a board, having the time to be clear on what those constraints are, and then apply them into the plan, and then really hold yourself to account to the plan, as well as then having time to network out in the market. Just getting to know where, we've had a case recently where we misjudged where the US trade buyers were. We thought that the US trade buyers would lean in. It's a fantastic company. When it came to it, we pulled the trigger. They just said, look, really interesting company, but our priority is US right now. So we were
Mm.
like, boom, the three of the biggest trade buyers were just out of the process, which is a disaster. So there, what did we learn? Well, we should have been done more wining and dining way beforehand, and we should have known that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's would you explicitly bonus the team on some of these stats? You mentioned NRR, for instance. Would you make that very explicit, you know, part of a bonus scheme or some sort of recognition scheme or not?
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, performance management incentives is another huge topic.
Mm,
So um, I think as important to bonusing is clearly the CEO and the team. Back to that kind of whether it's twice yearly, they need to decide, well, what's our North Star for the next push,
yeah,
and
yeah,
is it NRR, and therefore yes, aligning bonuses into that, if it's going to be NRR or something like that, is reinforcing ultimately what the team have decided anyway, rather than, what doesn't work, of course, is a board saying, okay, we want more NRR, so we'll give you if it's not in the zeitgeist of the exec team and really seen as a uniting goal, then it's probably not going to happen. Or if it does, it's by luck.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get that. When I was on the public market, I had this goal to make, because it's always theoretical. We're just trying to value the future value of shares,
Yeah.
but that there'd be a lock-in factor, which would be at least 4 times their annual earnings.
Mm,
Potentially, they would earn from options um, for my senior people.
mm.
Um, and of course, at the end of the day, the value of the business is the number one driver, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but of course, the downside of being listed is the volatility of share price, which nothing to do with your business in the short term. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's difficult. I mean, the Clue team have did a cracking year last year, and I think part of the success was they just all decided at the beginning of the year that 10 million ARR was the absolute number one goal of the year,
Yeah.
and sounded just super simple. Everybody in the business like, right, okay, that's
This
the
is it.
goal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
very pleased that they did it. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, conscious of time. So the final one was in terms of lessons learned was around personal health and performance. And
Hmm.
where I'm stepping back, and I guess it's not talked about very much. But being an entrepreneur, being a CEO is massively stressful. And so having the ability, having the support to understand how you physiologically are managing stress and how mentally you're managing that pressure, and then giving yourself time to understand, how are you doing with your life partner, your family, your friends, and I'm not moving into sort of woo woo. Everyone needs to have a sort of balanced life, etc., because it's pretty well impossible as an entrepreneur to have a balanced life. But I think you can ultimately drive awareness and manage things in a way that means that ultimately you will perform better. If
Yeah.
you go with the sports analogy, if your relationship with your partner's terrible, you're not connected with your family, and your personal health is poor, well, there's no way you're performing at your best. So,
No.
actually, so I don't personally think that topic is talked about enough.
No.
Obviously, talk
No.
a bit more these days, but I think it's a really vital thing to get the best out of the most important people in the business, which are the leaders and the founders.
Yeah. No. I entirely agree. I look back now. I thought, how the hell did I survive this ridiculous? We were in 20 countries. I think I
Mm.
spent more time on a plane than
Yeah.
in the office. Jet lag, and
Mm.
also I should joke in days bygone, culture's different now, but I'm never sure whether alcohol kept us going or slowed us down. Uh, um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's hard to say. And these days, I think the culture thing is so important, isn't it? Where if you're not careful, again, harking back to the old days, you can de facto form a boys' club if you're not careful,
Yeah.
which can be exclusive. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
others.
And
Yeah,
linking back to that kind of working on the business and having a time to reflect, I think is
Yeah,
key because I have seen situations where you have a C-suite team who are kind of okay to good, but actually a lot of the stress gets delegated back up to the CEO, um,
yeah,
just
yeah,
almost subconsciously, and so therefore, how do you as a CEO become aware of that? And I heard a great story from a very successful guy who was just he finally noticed he was just getting dragged into meetings. Everybody was wanting his input, etc. And of course, he realized it was his own ego really that was wanting to be in those meetings and all that kind of stuff. So
yes.
he basically drew the line and said, right, I'm leaving at 5:30 every day now, whatever happens. Um,
Wow.
and he found that basically said, oh, meeting's going on. So okay, I'm not in the meeting. And so it brought a certain rigor of, look, stop delegating up to me, stop drawing me into things. I must stop doing into. So it's almost like start shifting that delegation layer in a much clearer way, and it's and therefore less stress, better for performance, etc. As the sort of cycle goes round.
Yeah, yeah. Self-discipline is the hard one, isn't it? If you think you're a super person, Superman, Superwoman,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, you can end up being the blockage. Yeah, I agree with that. Mike, as you say, looking at our time, no session like this would be complete without at least us mentioning AI. Um, there's a whole lot of talk, some are quite loose about the impact of AI on businesses generally and employment, etc. It's too big a subject to cover in a
Mm.
couple of minutes. But what's your take on its impact on the kind of world of SaaS? There's some gloom and doom being spread around, but do you subscribe to that?
Well, I don't subscribe to it. I acknowledge it because it's a it's a reality. It's a fact. Um,
Yeah,
there's major change going on. You may argue that the pendulum's gone a little bit over the top, but ultimately it's a big impact. I sort of think back to other times where there's been, a sort of tectonic change. A sort of simple one was the mobile web, where everybody thought, oh, mobile phones are kind of interesting, and they're going to have, oh, they might have a little bit of an impact on business, particularly e-commerce businesses. But no one really clocked. It was only the point where the stats came out saying there's more people engaging with mobile web than with kind of laptop PC web. And you suddenly had
yeah,
everyone do something
yeah,
like, what? You mean there's more people? And it took that sort of stat to suddenly get people to realize. And I think we're in that sort of zone right now where um, people are, we know it's coming. There's people playing around with it. But actually, and there was a term in those days, wasn't there? It was sort of mobile first companies, and some mobile first companies, guess what?
yes,
They really understood it way better. So I think it's kind of this, what is your definition as an entrepreneur of how you're thinking about AI? And then, and testing like AI first. What does AI first mean? What would it mean? Um,
yeah,
uh, Really uncomfortable kind of questions. Um, but and the other piece with AI, which I see some teams tussling with, is it's so sort of multifaceted. Everyone can say they're using a bit of AI. So actually, I think we're in the phase of impact measures, like actually what is the impact measure for something, and then how are we measuring that? Because when you see the impact of really well constructed architect AI in a particular activity, you can see massive benefits. Whereas I think there's a lot of companies sort of playing around with AI, and they're seeing incremental stuff, but they're not seeing massive steps forward, and therefore back to that working on the business, I think it's be realistic. Don't kid yourself because you're playing around with a bit of Claude and this, that, and the other. Search for the actual dramatic change to your business, because guess what? Some other competitor is doing the same, and if they get there first, you're going to be under pressure.
Yeah. So surf it, don't get drowned by it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good, Mike. Well, there's pearls of wisdom there, which I'm sure the audience will be soaking up and taking on board to help them in their scaling up activities. Not to forget, Scale Up Group itself is here to get them funding. You
Yes.
know, point you made right at the beginning. Make sure you get the right source of funding from the right type of fund, which is part of your journey to hopefully successful exit for everyone and their incredible work commitment, which, as you say, trying to get work-life balance if you're an entrepreneur is next to impossible. But so you've got to be confident that you've got to get some reward out of it at the end of the day, without question. Any last thoughts, Mike?
No, really enjoyed it. It's been great to work closely with ScaleUp Group on Glue and also Egotix. So yeah, really enjoyed it and enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Great, thanks once again, Mike Reid. Thank you.